Okay, so I have another title I wanted to speak about, and that is The Mind Reduces Possibilities for the Illusion of Control. The mind reduces possibilities for the illusion of being in control, right? So I noticed this in my own experience, that when I'm planning for the future in the existential form with business and where I live and where we go and what we're doing with which business we're going to pursue or not pursue, that you kind of make some kind of future plans. We often make some kind of plans of where we're going with the existential things. And this faculty is way overrated. That is, the mind feels like it needs to know where it's going to go, what is going to happen, what are the possibilities. And so it frantically tries to work things out in a way that causes a mental suffering, psychological suffering, because it is so bent on saying, I know where this is going to go. I'm going to take this step and then that step and then 1 week from now and then 2 weeks from now, and this is the schedule, this is the plan, and this is my to-do list, and I'm going to get here, right? And what it's actually doing, it's trying to convince itself of being in control. But by convincing itself that it knows what it's doing, it knows what steps it's going to take to get where it wants to go. By doing that, it actually excludes thousands of possibilities that are possible, that could come, that now can't come, because it wants to see how it's going to go. It wants to know every step of the way. And so it says, okay, and it turns a blind eye, because of its exclusive focus on it thinking it knows where it's going, it turns a blind eye on what can come in through the flow of surprise existence and take you to a completely new and better direction in most cases. And so what the mind actually does, it reduces the different possibilities for the illusion of being in control. Now, of course, if there's 100,000 things that are possible, but the mind can only see 100, then it's excluding all the other ones, right? So let's say, just to keep it simple, 1,000 different possibilities can happen at any moment that take your life in a different direction. And if the quantum field was left in charge, if the higher intelligence of consciousness and the flow of life was allowed to just be, then these things that could happen could come from any direction, unpredictable, and take you into beautiful directions that are just would have never been imagined by the human mind. But the human mind, not allowing 1,000 options because it can't handle 1,000 options, would have only 10, and therefore exclude the other 990. And so the mind reduces and limits and causes, a congestion or a blockage or a straitjacket effect on the vastness of possibilities by claiming and exerting its own will upon the flow of existence. And therefore it says, no, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to get there. And then it sees only those 10 steps, and then whenever something comes along that interferes with that or kind of throws you off path, it gets frustrated and it tries to force everything back on, when really one of those things that came along was a natural flow which could have caused a much more beautiful reality for the existential unfolding of life, of living, the existential formal living life of the body in time and space. And instead the mind would say, no, I'm going to block it because that's not part of my plan. And so it limits the possibilities that the universe offers and casts them out of the life. And then people get stuck in situations in their life. They think, what did I do to deserve this horrible place? People say that, why did I deserve to get here? Well, you've limited life. I say truth is always everywhere, because it is. There is always somebody that comes along. I've spoken to people that were in difficult situations and gave them the titles of different books and videos that could have helped them. They didn't take it. They didn't take any of it. They were not ready. They were not mature for it. Then 2 years later, you speak to them, their life is even more in a hellhole, degraded even more. And every time again, they must have run into somebody that gave them the help like I did and told them, look, you can get yourself out of this trouble by getting the self-knowledge about these things and the psychology and how the mind works and your pure awareness. And yet they wouldn't. That's because this mind was so bent on being in control that it would turn a blind eye and ear, a deaf ears, like they say, it falls on deaf ears, and they wouldn't get out of it. So the mind, the human thinking mind, I'm not talking about the grander use of the word mind, which would be called basically this whole thing, everything is taking place in consciousness or mind, big M mind, but I don't use those. I don't like to use the big M and the small m. I usually use the word mind as thinking mind. And otherwise I'll use other words like consciousness or the vastness of it all, whatever, energetic presence, the whole cosmic reality, whatever. The point is, for me, mind is the thinking, limited human mind, which is stuck in its own computing system, its own slow software programming. And so this slow software programming mind excludes countless, if not the majority, probably 99% or 99.9% of all possibilities to harmony, to a better flow of things, by claiming to be the captain on the ship that needs to take all the decisions. He doesn't listen to the circumstances. A captain who's bent on getting somewhere, despite the fact that there's a storm going to be whipped up on the ocean right in the middle of him and his destination, is a crazy captain. A captain that can't adapt to circumstances on the ship, or a broken engine, or a leaking somewhere, just it says, no, we're going to keep going because this, I planned it, and then we have to be there by next week, and blah blah blah, is a crazy captain. And this is what most people do, because they're living by the standard of this low computing mind frame stuff, this slow, turgid, outdated computing system of the thinking human mind, with all its indoctrinations and rubbish that's been put into it by all the conditioning of our crazy fallen world. So if you can just rest as the well-being, as the quantum field, as this trust in life, this real deep trust that all will be taken care of by the benevolent nature of the universe itself, without constantly having to be the one doing it all, steering, overcorrecting, repositioning, oh my God, this whole life, I got to get this thing back on track. And if you stop doing that and just allow this vastness, this incredible intelligence that is beyond the human mind, to allow for some flow steering, then there is more harmony, instead of this mind reducing and limiting all these options for its own sake of illusory control.